Hey, hey, mining family. Welcome to the mine, episode 9, the build. Yo, let's get into it, guys. I'm Nemesis. Gonna be doing this one a little different, as you see. Yo, legit. But of course, I'm not your babysitter. Do your own research, but let's dig in. Yo, what's going on, Crypto Nation? Yo, what's going on, people? I see that we've got Crypto Mikkel. Yo, my partner. Yo, legit. Got my man Raven Sky in his house. Thank you for making sure that you got up at least 4 minutes early. Yo, hope you got some drinks and everything. Sit back. Welcome to the show. Got my man Ninja Grassmaster in the house. I'm gonna properly show you how to click the RAM all the way down the first time. But just playing. You know, we all make mistakes. I mean, I've made my fair share of mistakes over time, so you know, it is what it is. At least yours didn't fry out a graphics card like my mistake fried out one of mine, so let's learn what not to do together, guys. And yo, Peter Stone, thank you for setting your alarm clock to making sure you came here. I know that it is really late for you. You chimed in, said something about you had a test to do in the morning. So I hope that this doesn't disrupt you from you know, maximizing that test. So thank you for being here, most certainly. So yeah, let's kind of dig right up into it, guys. As you see here, I've got my graphics cards laid out. I have two RX 580 Sapphire Nitro Pluses that I DCA'd. Remember that, guys. I always DCA. I didn't just go out and buy all this equipment yesterday, had it overnighted so I can do this build today. No. I've been DCAing this stuff over the period of you know, like a few months or so. 6 months or so. Yeah, about 6 months, according. My wife's kind of backing me up on this one. She's going to be helping me out with the chat, guys. So if I get distracted, she is helping me out tonight. So she will be directing my attention to your guys' awesome questions if I get involved with my build. But these Sapphire Nitro Pluses are pretty nice. The only drawback on there is that it's hard to see. But on the top here, you need to make sure that the cable you're using has one 8-pin, one 6-pin on it. Most power supplies come with at least one set of those, so that's actually not too bad. And then these bad boys, these ones I got from the Doge Lord himself, guys. Yo. Oh, hey, Gandhi, what's going on? Yo, thank you for making it here. Legit. But these cards I got from the Doge Lord himself. Yo, legit. These are the GTX 1070, not the TIs. There's regular 1070, 8 gig variants. Oop, as it's caught on the bag. So these are the ones that I got from the Doge Lord. Yo, thank you, Doge Lord, if you're watching, for the hookup. That was solid. And what's nice about these ones is that these ones only require 1-pin layout. Most of the power supplies come with an abundance of the 1-pin, 8-pin layout. So the 1-pin layouts transform kind of. They are a 6-pin and an 8-pin. It's got like 2 pins that you can kind of pull off to the side if you don't need them. Legit. I'm using the anti-static bag on these because it's got a bare circuit board on the back. You don't want to sit there and just lay this thing down on stuff. So it's better to lay it off to the side like that. And then, of course, we've got the EVGAs. These are 1,000 watt power supplies. And they come with enough layouts for everything. Legit. So we've got the motherboard layout on there. We've got all the top power for the graphics cards. So this power supply can power up to 6 graphics cards. as long as you're not going over the limit of 1,000 watts. Now, I would still not push these to that 1,000 watt or that 80%. These actually run a little bit more efficiently if you're into that between the 60 to 75% range on the usage of the wattage, and these go right into their efficiency zone. And these ones are the titanium variants, so they last a long time. The fans are pretty quiet. The fans aren't very power hungry. It's not like the Corsairs, where the Corsair fans will cycle on and off. That's a unique feature for the Corsairs, but the Corsairs are a little bit more money to DCA into. And I know these ones work. I've used these a lot. I've got my other 2 rigs with 2 of these on each motherboard, so, yo, legit. And and guys, zip ties, they're cheap. This makes cable management look sexy. It's almost as sexual as that Yiggity Yen hat. If you guys haven't checked it out, this is for the people that aren't part of it already, or haven't checked it out. Check out that Yen, guys. Sign up, get on that waiting list. Check out that sundrop.io. It's awesome. But I'm gonna have to point my camera down. I'm not cool with, you know, a bunch of cameras, so I'm gonna point this down to the table to where I'm gonna start doing up the build on this, and let's dig in, guys. This is gonna be awesome. I've been waiting to do this since I got the last bit of stuff. So point it down. We'll turn it to the side a little bit. Going for a ride, guys. Sorry if anybody got sick during the ride. It'll come to a stop here. Bam. So, bam. Look what I got here, yo. The H110 BTC Pro. Yo. This thing is actually really nice. Comes with a bunch of stuff. A lot of this stuff as a miner, I don't need. Like this disc, I don't need that. This is for your hard drives. If you're running a hard drive, you'll use this. I don't use hard drives. I use thumb drives. They actually use a little bit less power than using a hard drive, so you don't need to worry about that running these. So this stuff I could set off to the side, rear I/O plate. Since I'm going into an open air rig, I don't use this either. This is actually kind of useless to me, being that it's the well, kind of not. There's some good information in here if you need to figure out where the pin layouts are on the motherboard so you can hook up your power cable. But a lot of the stuff is very self-explanatory. But this is just kind of like a little easy guide to just kind of know where your layouts are. But I tend to set this off to the side unless I'm having an issue. And then it comes with a little itty-bitty screw because this board is equipped with an M.2 port. So you can actually... They have an M.2 port where you can put in another 16x1 slot in there if you wanted to increase and try to get more onto the board. Some people do it, some people don't. Some people use it for for memory too, so you can slip there and slip in some solid-state memory into the M.2 port. It's a nice little feature if you're using that. But the meat and potatoes, yo, legit. So I can put this off to the side. And take this up out of here. Now there's, I always try to tell people to try to ground themselves beforehand. Now I've touched some metal around me to make sure that I'm well grounded right now. Especially being in a mining house. Miners suck every last little bit of moisture out of the air. It makes everything really staticky in here. So I've got to run humidifiers and everything in the house. So these, I try to, I should probably put this right down on here. So it comes with a little foam backer on there. During the purpose of the build, I leave that on there until I put it into my rack. Which I have my rack right off to the side that I've already pre-built. Awesome. So on here, very easy layout. So we got Molex. Now these will help power up these slots here. this is going to be considered GPU 0. So something has always got to be plugged into this long port. You can't just start from the top and start plugging down. This one has to be filled up first. So even if you're not filling up all of these, you start here and then from the top working your way down. The only thing that that's going to be required that I actually don't have any of was electrical tape for this particular motherboard, and I'll explain it in a minute here what I'm talking about. I need electrical tape on this particular motherboard whenever I get to that point, and you'll see why I won't fire this board up until I do my little electrical tape deal. And I will start off with that RAM. So I like to use G.Skill RAM. I try to get this stuff while it's on sale. Always DCA into this stuff. It's really nice whenever you're DCAing into it. This way you can kind of catch it on sale and get your stuff on a cheaper end. That's why it's taken me a few months to get all of my equipment. G.Skill is just a company that I happen to trust. I've used them for years with every PC I've ever built, so I will continue using them as long as they are on a decent price. Get these bad boys up out of here, and they are locked in there so they don't fall out. And on this particular board, some motherboards will have the locks coming out on both sides. This one has them up on one side. And I almost put it in backwards because I'm kind of, not thinking about it. I almost did my own little mistake, but it wouldn't have slipped in anyway. So, whenever you're just dropping these down into there, you make sure they drop in nice and square. Now, what I like to do is put my hand on the back side of the board. This way I'm supporting everything and not flexing it. That's the last thing you want to do is flex your electronics. Now, you should hear it click. You hear that, guys? It just clicked. We'll do it one more time. Since I'm opening up both channels of RAM on here. Now, you only need 8 gigs of RAM to really run this stuff. So, 2 4 gig sticks of RAM, and you are good to go, my guys. And click. All the way down. That RAM is seated. See that, Grassmaster? It should have clicked like that. It's like it's hard to hear it over audio whenever I was helping him build this here if he clicked it down all the way. But it should have snapped in with some force. And then, so the next thing I like to do, now this is all stuff that I do before it goes into the frame rig. Because you've got to basically put a little pressure onto the motherboard, and it's better to be able to put your hands around it and support the motherboard as you do this process. And that's where the next process comes to be the CPU. Nice and easy, guys. So, this is the CPU I went with. It's just a little Celeron, nothing special. This particular one was the 4900. So it utilizes 54 watts. It was the one that was available at the time that I was DCAing. So 54 watts on a chipset, dude, no problem. I love it. And as you see on the chipset, there's a where the socket is, there's a little plastic cover on there. Don't worry about taking that off if you've never done this before. When you put the chip in here and you close the lid, the chip will actually pop the lid off. So don't worry about trying to take that off. Let me open this bad boy up. Now, it's hard to see. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get the camera to even try to... Okay, it did. So, there's a little triangle right where my index finger is. On this motherboard, there's also a triangle in the corner that'll correspond with this. You want to make sure the two triangles match up. And then you just push down the little lock, bring it off to the side, and it comes up. Bam. Comes out from underneath the lock. Just that simple. And This thing should only go in one particular way. And where is... Man, it's hard to see it on this particular one. One would think... Okay. Let me make sure that I got it. Alright, perfect. Okay. And there's little notches on this too that you can just sit there and drop it in. And as you can see here, I've got the little triangle in this corner, and the CPU just slots in perfectly. Once it's down, just leave it alone. You're good to go. You just sit there and you just flip the lid down, as you see, and it goes underneath this little pin here, which helps lock the forward portion of it. And as you push down, bam! See, guys? The lid automatically pops right on off. Yo, legit. So you don't even have to worry about it. This thing is now in play. It's good to go. You should not have to futz with this at all. At all. If this ever has an issue, it was either an issue with this before you got the motherboard, or it was an issue while you dropped the CPU into its slot. If you dropped it and like massively wiggled it around trying to force it in crooked or whatever, you can bend a pin and then you'll have motherboard boot up issues. But just drop it in the way it's supposed to. Don't try to force it in. It'll be nice and easy. And also in this box is my fan. Let's see how this bad boy opens up. Transforms just really quickly. Alright, bam. Now, on the fan, there's already some thermal conductive paste. You want to make sure that you have something on there. Even if you're not utilizing the stock paste, I'm going to utilize it because I'm not mining on the CPU. So this CPU is not going to get hot enough to really thermally cook this paste off really bad. I have not had an issue with it before. And then there's also a little plug-in header here. I'm going to set this down really quickly so I can show you. This little header right here, little 4 pins, this is for the fan. If nothing is plugged in here, this motherboard will not boot up. So you must make sure your fan for the CPU is plugged in. Do you guys have any questions so far with what I've gone over? If you guys got any questions, please fire them away.
Peter still wanted to know what fan you're using, and I'm told him the stock fan.
It's the stock fan that came with the Celeron CPU. So whenever you buy these CPUs, they already come with a fan, so you don't have that added extra cost on there. Bonus. Any other questions, guys? That was a good question, Peter. But yeah, let's kind of move on just a little bit here. Huh? Yo, Bit Native. And MiamiS Kitchens, yo, welcome to the show, guys. Thank you for showing up here, yo, legitness. So, with this, I'm gonna try to see the best layout for this fan and its position so that it will be more cable managed. I like to try to have a little cable management with my stuff. So this will work just like that. So I will put this down onto its little pegs. Now what's nice about these ones is that these are kind of push pegs. So you just kind of grab them and just push them in play. Ba-bam. 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 You have to do nothing else. She's good to go. And then all I got to do is flip this around and plug her in, plug her in. No, don't like that. So she's gonna live like this. No problem. I shall tuck her in right here, and she shall live like that. Yeah. Awesome. So now this thing is pretty much set. She's ready to go into the mining rig itself, the rig frame. I mean, there's really not much more I need to do to it at this point. So anybody have any kind of questions now that I have the motherboard partially assembled? I know there's a little bit of a delay on that, so while that's happening, fellas, I shall clean off for my next stage, which is going to be a big old frame coming onto the table here, which is going to be cool. Let me pull that off to the side here. Now at this point, I can actually move this off to the side too. Move stuff back. I'll get into what this is, guys, in a little bit. And, yo, the rig frame, yo. This one has enough room on it to actually fit 8 GPUs on it. This is my very first pre-built rig frame. Not the easiest thing, I have to say, to put together. Well, let me take that back. It was easy to put together. The only thing that wasn't clear was in the instructions was these two rails here, in conjunction with this bar in between. I actually had these bars flipped this way, so it put this bar closer to this bar. You wouldn't think, you visually don't even see it that much. You're talking, it was like a difference of like a ½ an inch. I didn't notice it until I test fitted the motherboard on here just to see where the layout of this motherboard had to be. With that being said, that's when I discovered that this needed to be over this way, just a pinch. So I had to, and it wasn't too bad because this thing is so modular, to actually take it apart, flip the rails around, and then put it back together. I didn't even have to disconnect this. I just disconnected the 4 corners and just flipped it all around, put it back together, and good to go. It was a small little inconvenience, but in the instructions, it shows this bar being dead center, so I didn't know. Oops. Live and learn, right, guys? Live and learn.
What models?
The CPU was the G4900, which was this one. Let's see if the camera will pick that up. Yeah, the G4900. You can go with the 3930s too. Those ones are 51 watts. I have those. I have one of those in one of my other rigs. So any of the Celerons will do the trick. Just grab the low wattage ones. You don't need anything with crazy ramped up power unless you're utilizing it. Yes, exactly, BitNative. Having a fast CPU is not very important. It's more important to have efficiency on this. All the power is coming from the GPUs. So we're utilizing the GPU as being a separate a computer in itself, and we're going to line this up with 7 of them. But exactly, BitNative. Everything is going to be going through the PCIe ports, through the motherboard. Perfect. I was thinking of mining Monero. Yeah, if you're going to mine Monero, you might want a better CPU, maybe. But you're probably already mining Monero anyway, so does it really matter? So at this point, we can sit there and certainly get the motherboard prepped for going into its final destination. Alright, let's see about which screws were for which piece. Yeah, I kind of piled up some of my stuff into one area, trying to condense everything, and kind of made it a little rougher on myself to see what I was doing here. No worries. No worries. Alright, so I'm taking that as for that. Okay, perfect. Perfect, perfect. Okay, so that's for the... Okay, perfect. So, at this point, we can sit there and drop this down onto it. Now, you don't have to fill up all the holes. There's actually another set of holes here that I'm not utilizing, but I'm supporting it more here in the middle. So you don't have to worry about all that. Not an issue whatsoever. Let me get one of my screws out of here, because these things are kind of small. Little itty bitty screws, I have to say. And screw it right on in, bring it home. And don't screw these things tight right off the bat. Give yourself a little room, this way you're not torquing out the board whenever you're lining up all the screws. As a mechanic, that's something that I learned as a mechanic, to always kind of preset your screws in place first before you send them all home. You'll find that you won't break stuff in the process. You always want to be nice to your equipment, is the name of the game on that one, I guess. So, ba-bam. Thank you, my man. Yeah, this one, bought it off of eBay, actually, for, what was it, 39 bucks?
No, actually, I got a deal at that time. It was 28.
Oh, 28 bucks. See, my wife is the savvy shopper. It is awesome. I tell her what I want, and she's like, I found it. It's like, yes. So sometimes you can find these pre-builts, and this one's actually a really cool pre-built because you can actually stack them. And it comes with all the hardware necessary to put everything onto it, which is also a very nice feature. So you're not buying any extra hardware, and it even came with these like Allen wrenches, so I'll be able to put these Allen wrenches in as part of my tool set afterwards. And then something that I learned as a mechanic that I prefer to do. I suggest that everybody else does this too. It doesn't matter what it is. Start from the middle. Tighten your middle first. This way, if it tries to flex, it can shift at the ends and you're not stressing anything out in the process. And these things don't have to be tight. Finger tight. I'm not putting a lot of pressure on there. You don't have to be Hercules. Peter Stone, I know you're a big guy. It's like trying to pick up a little mouse. All right, yep, tightening this all down. It takes a second, you know. You can't rush this stuff. That's the last thing you want to do, because when you start rushing it, you're gonna start breaking stuff. That's the last thing you want, most certainly. And and all you people here, thank you for being here. Definitely smash that like button if you guys haven't. All 10 of you, I see that you're all here. Thank you, thank you. Make sure I tightened up everything. And always just kind of double check, make sure you did everything. It doesn't hurt to double check. That's tight. That's tight. That's tight. That's tight. That's tight. Awesome. So I can put this off to the side. Now the next thing to come up onto here will be some power supplies. Yo. So, and that's where these come in right here. All right. So, bam. We got power supplies that I can put in. And let's see how these power supplies want to live. And it looks kind of funky. Alright, I see how you want to be on here. Alright, I had these upside down. Okay, I see how it wants to be. It wants to be like this. Okay, I see. Alright, now I can grab some more screws. And actually, there should be some big ones. Actually, where'd they go? I think these are them. Aha. 2 on each one of these. And like I said, this kit, this frame kit came with everything to mount it. It's really nice. So far, it's going together pretty cleanly. I like this. This is gonna look really sexy when I'm done.
And the racks are supposed to be stackable.
Yes, very stackable. So these end caps that I got on, well, I got little end caps on here so they don't look all ugly, but there's a little hole down in there that you could put a peg in there and put another frame rig on. Really cool. Yeah.
Stone wants to know if there's any more compact racks that can fit the same amount of GPUs. Don't think so. Everything I saw was 6s.
Yeah, there's like 6, 8, 12, and then just big racks after that. And this one wants to give me a pain in the tuchus to go in. I hope that's not a bird up one. Either that, it's the EVGA. I think it's the EVGA. I think you were right, babe, that I needed to have needle nose. Actually, no, these are Phillips, so I'm going to use it like this. Yeah. So this one's a little rough to get in. That's fine. She'll be nice and tight. That's fine by me. She ain't going nowhere. Yes. And before I put the other one all the way in place, I have preached it over and over again to, if you have the ability to, run 220 power to these. You're going to use less amperage. These aren't going to get as hot running on 220. And these particular power supplies have a stupid little button here. It says Eco. Do not press it. Don't slide it over. It puts this power supply into a weird, like, low power wattage mode, and the rig will not turn on right. So do not flick that switch on there for the love of God. I know somebody else who did, so just leave it off, and the rig will be happy. But these power supplies do not come in the United States. Do not come with the 220 power cable. So if you're in the U.S. or in an area where they customly use 110 for the household, they will come with the standard 110 power supply cables. Now, on the other side of it, if you have 220, like I've wired part of my rigs into, and I do have the cables for it, these cables here are the 220 cables. So they are C14 to C13, or yeah, C13 to C14 cables. If you've got the 1600 watt ones, where they got the square plugs, they'll be the C1900 to C13 C19 to C13. So that's all you're going to really need. And of course, you know, if you're going to run on 220, I recommend getting something like a trip light to so that each rig will have its own dedicated fuse. So if there's a surge of any sort, your rig is protected. This is an investment, guys, so treat it as such. You know, so you want to put as many buffers between you and the power company as you can. So putting it onto isolators if you can, or just making sure that it's got its own dedicated fuse. That stuff helps. It's not always, you know, 100% necessary. Like Crypto Mikkel, he runs it off of his living room. A lot of people do this. If you don't have a lot of graphics cards, you'll probably be okay running it that way. One small rig per circuit would be okay. Just make sure you got it on a surge protector. You know, you want to protect your investment. You know, and the first thing you want to do is protect it from the heart. And this is going to power up everything, and it can just train wreck you. So from here, we kind of start getting.
Peter Stone wants to know why he never sees anybody keep them burnt.
You can do vertical rigs. I've actually seen people do vertical rigs. If you think about whenever you've got your own PC at home, your graphics cards are actually laying in there just like this. So the fans would be facing down, pulling in the cool air. Some people have the argument on these with these graphics cards that with the graphics cards laying like this, the fans will have less stress on the bearing section, so the fans will last longer. That's always the argument. How do I run them? Me, myself, I run them just like this. I haven't had an issue with any of them. Have I had a fan die on me? Yes, I have. And I've had to warranty it out. Because these things are on 24/7, the fans do burn out. Now, is it going to burn out quicker being vertical? I don't know. But I do know with going vertical, it does give you a different space arrangement. So you can condense some of your rigs, but you want to make sure that you support your graphics cards and make sure that they're not just hanging off the back side. You don't want to just support them off the front of the graphics card. You're going to put unnecessary stress across the graphics card's motherboard and start stressing it out. And while it heats up, you're going to start breaking stuff. So just make sure that however you run your configuration, that the card is well supported. I do have ones where I hang them up from underneath, and you just hang them by zip ties. Again, I'm supporting the front and the back with zip ties. So it depends on how you want to configure your graphics cards, depends on how you're supporting them. For this particular one, because it's more of a professional rack build, I wanted to kind of do something really nice and make it look a little bit more presentable to you guys. So with let me get the last power supply secured.
Bruno Cruz just came in.
Hey Bruno, what's going on? Welcome to the show. You can kind of miss the very beginning of it, of me pre-assembling the motherboard. Just to kind of quick catch you up here. Don't build your motherboard on the rack frame. Build it while it's on the little foam piece. It's like got a little foam piece, and this way you can click everything in and make sure it's all secure before you set it on here and start clicking in wires. Oop. And I got wires that just don't want to play nice and stay where I want them to be. I'll put a piece of tape on you to keep you where I want, because this is supposed to be a really nice, clean looking build. And get in there, screw in.
Yes,
what?
Are there standoffs on?
Yes, there are. I have, do I have any extra ones? I thought I did. Yes, here we go. I have a few extra standoffs. So, yes, I do have little standoffs underneath the motherboard. So they're not laid right up on the aluminum frame. That is a very good question. Excellent, excellent questions. Love them. Keep the good questions coming, guys. I'm just letting you in on the process of me building. I don't know what it is about this one particular hole from EVGA on these particular power supplies, but they don't want to set in there right. This other one's really nice and easy. That's weird. Whatever. I guess there was a reason why you made sure that I had tools, right, babe? Hindsight being 20/20. That's why I got, you know, behind every good man is a even better woman, right, guys? Taking a drink of water. Sweet. All right. So now I got the power supplies nice and secure. They're not going anywhere. See, I can pick everything up. It's not going anywhere. The back sides of these are not supported, so these would not be recommended to go vertical with them too. You're only supporting them on 2 screw holes from the front, and it's on some really nice looking clear plexiglass. So it's not going to be supporting a whole lot of weight. It's just there to hold it in place so that you can move it around and not have any issues.
I'm not sure if James is joking.
Miami, if you're going later, hopefully you watch the replay if you're happen to take off. Definitely catch it on the replay. So let's kind of go into the very next thing, which would be actually doing some of the wiring. While you're doing this, this is the perfect time to start thinking of wire management. That's where zip ties are your friends, guys. This is how you're going to make everything look clean and sexy, and your wife's not going to go, "Oh my God, it looks like a hideous wire mess. Go clean it up." Not good, guys. So these big bulky wires are going to be your main motherboard wires. Both of these are going to get one of these, and this is also how you turn them on. But if you notice, there's only one port for one of these motherboards to get plugged in, guys. Only one. So I actually had to buy a separate wire. This allows you to daisy chain two power supplies together. This way, when you hit the power button, it turns on both power supplies at the same time. This is very necessary if you're going to want to run multiple power supplies. Hence why I've got one. Yo! So, whenever you're plugging these in, let's see here, where's the clip? So the clip is on the outside, and there's a little clip on this. Support the back side of this a little bit when you're pressing them in. Some of these take a little bit of force to get them to click down all the way. There we go. Bam. See, I had to kind of press down on it. And that's why I'm holding on to the motherboard, so I didn't flex the motherboard port. So I've actually seen people have failures from just plugging this in because they just went click and actually broke the soldering off of the motherboard. So not a good thing. So again, you're gonna have to think about your cable management. So, and then pick out which side is going to be your motherboard power side. So you don't want to power up, your CPU from here and then have your Molex from here. Both of these, the Molex power ports here and the CPU have to come from the same power supply. So I'm going to choose this left power supply. For me, it'll be, my left on this one. So, which means that I'm also plugging it into the bulk of this. This one is to power up the secondary, not the primary. So if you see just two wires, this is the secondary. Do not use it on your primary CPU power. Not that I don't know if you're going to have an issue. It's just what I've been taught to not do that. So I'm just going to keep good practices going. So, and you see this thing is pretty long, so you're going to have to use zip ties to kind of manage this up because I don't need it to be that long. Seriously, this thing is uber long. And then again, these have got little clicks in there. It's one thing I love about these modular power supplies. It's like click, yeah. It's like a manly click. It's like pop, bam. Ugh. Sometimes you gotta manhandle it to get them in there, but as soon as they're in, you're good to go. Now, this is where you can kind of start managing some of your cabling. So you can kind of see what I'm kind of doing here is I'm walking it along this rail here. So I'm going to use this rail here as a perfect spot to zip tie in. I think this is a great time to use a zip tie. Now, don't worry about all the ends being long at first. You can go back through and actually cut them off at a later point. Just make sure they're in an area where you can. And then, bam, look at that. And then I could put another one like right up in here to kind of hold it right down here. You see this? I mean, just a couple of zip ties, and it's going to make it look really good, real presentable. then these ones are, I'm going to have to kind of massage this a little bit the other way, because these things got wrapped up, so sometimes they don't play nice zip tying together, and you'll kind of have to massage the wire the other direction to make sure that it lays out really nice and tight. And you see it's already looking really good. I've got a long wire in there. I've taken up most of the space on it, and now I can click these two together. But bam, this is all clicked together. Now I can drop another zip tie here and just let it free flow like this. Now I'm not trying to make it too tight here. I don't want to put any pressure on this motherboard, guys. So that's the last thing you want to do, is put any funky pressure on this motherboard. It needs to live life and be happy here. It's in its happy spot, guys. So encourage it. And I shall drop another zip tie.
It always leaves a little slack in it until...
Exactly. I'm going to leave some slack into it. Because I'm so used to doing wire management, I actually, with auto restorations, so I kind of map stuff out as I'm wiring it in, and if I ever have to, I've had to cut zip ties off because I didn't like the wiring where it laid out. Sometimes it happens. I mean, you have to be creative with this occasionally. All right. Hey, Peter, thank you for being here. I know that it's very, very late for you, and you got a test in the morning, so I hope you do good on your test, man. Best wishes. Much love to my Viking friend. All right. So we shall put the other power cable in here. And I can go click. Got that click. See if it... bam. I don't know if you guys can hear that. This one's a little closer to the mic. Click. Click. Yes. That sexual click. And again, I'll put this wire off to the side again. And I'm leaving slack over here, like I did over here. So everything's going to live life very happy with a little bit of breathing room. But bam, I love this. This is going to look so nice. Zip ties are your friend when you're building. Otherwise, you're going to have one that looks like my very first rig. I call it Medusa and Medusa's Lair. It is like a spaghetti of wiring because I kind of half threw it together, pulled it apart, threw it back together, and I was doing it with my brother, and we did not go through and do the greatest cable management, so I figured at least for this one, I was going to be very nice about it. Alright, so I'll throw another zip tie right here, just to kind of lock her in, and again, I'm not doing them very tight. There we go. And then this one just gets plugged into this single one. Now this one is just going to power up this other power supply. But bam, bam. So now with that put in play, now when you hit the power button on this thing, it's going to turn both of these on at the same exact time. That is the way it needs to be. And I shall throw another zip tie right here because these things are so sexual. Oh yes. I love me zip ties. Alright. And you guys can get a little tight. Make sure you're in your very happy spot. Ooh. Wood table's a little slick. This thing's made to go onto like a rug or something, man. This thing like scooches across like a slick surface very nicely. It's like... So... And I can get myself a smaller zip tie to actually make these look a little nicer. This way, these couple of little wires Now what you're seeing me do right here real quick, it's kind of a little trick that I've learned from Auto Mechanic. If I got just a pinch too much wiring, I can sit there and loop it, take the zip tie and actually sail it through the loop and bring it in with the rest of it, and it'll suck up some of the it and kind of manage it in a different way. And I can bring that over here. This way it's going to live life hidden with a little slack. Look at that. Now both ends have a little slack to it. I've pulled it more into the middle. So this thing has got all slack into it, so I'm not putting any pressure on the port. So we're good. And then I'll be able to trim these up in a little bit. Yo, legit. Anybody got any questions going on so far? Any kind of questions whatsoever as I'm going through? Now remember, this is the power supply that I'm going to be using to power this motherboard up. So the next thing I'm going to be grabbing is the actual CPU power cable. And that's where it gets plugged in right here. And again, this thing is as long as all get out. So you're going to be doing some cable management again. And then on the power supply, there is a spot that will say CPU on it. There we go. CPU 1, CPU 2. I will plug it into CPU 1. That's just how I've always done things. And click. Ooh, being in this position, I just popped my back. Yo! So again, I can lay out how I want to map out where I want the wiring to go. This way I'm zip tying it the right way. Bam, zip tied in the way, and whoop. Now I'm not zip tying it around the main power cable. With these modular power supplies, it actually doesn't make much of a difference if you actually zip them all together. As long as you replace, if you ever have a power supply that fails on you, just replace it out with the same style power supply, and you'll just be able to unhook them and just swap the power supply out individually. That is why I go after modular power supplies, is that I can unplug everything and I don't have to cut all these zip ties out in order to release the power supply. If you get like a semi-modular one, you're going to have the main motherboard power that's going to be always attached to the power supply. So if you have a power supply failure, you've got to cut all of it free, and then you got to rewire everything back in afterwards. So not that you have to use a modular, I just recommend it just for building purposes. And then what I will do here is a little tuck trick. Now I left a little room here for a reason, actually, is that I can use the one zip tie to actually hold this wire in, even though it's not zip tied in at all. It looks like it is, right guys? Legit secrets. And then the clip on it is facing this way, so you got to make sure that your clips click. And again, don't try to force these things in. And don't be stretching them like from hell and back again. That's why I always kind of leave a little bit of room on stuff so that I can work a little slack in the areas where I need it to go. So bam. Now this one's going to live life very happy, just like that. Legit, guys. And I can sit there and drop a zip tie right here. And now this wire will be held perfectly. Bam. Look at that. Sexy, guys. Super sexy. Anybody got any kind of questions? Anything as so far as I'm going along and how I'm routing everything, how sexy it looks. I mean, you can make a comment on how sexy you think it is. I mean, if you think this thing is awesome, just smash that like button, guys. Yo, legit. I got to play with my Stream Deck, man. I got this Elgato Stream Deck for Christmas. Yo, I love it. Oh yes, Ninja Grassmaster, very sexy. All right, so the very next thing we're gonna do is plugging in these Molex. As my little brother would say, molars, but the correct pronunciation, if he's watching, is Molex. And then these ones get plugged in by the peripherals. So depending on your power supply will depend on how many for the peripherals you'll actually get. Usually don't get very many of these. So, and it,
guys is now. This is not like this.
So, one cable will be able. You can plug both of these off with just one. When you're plugging these in, again, kind of support the motherboard a little bit. They're a little bit bulky getting plugged in, and you should feel them seat all the way. And even this one that's right here, I go right up underneath my rig. You know, give it the what do they call that when they're doing that that one exam, the rectal exam or whatever. As my wife's a nurse, so she should know this stuff.
Prostate exam.
Prostate exam. There you go. It's like giving it a prostate exam. And again, you can sit there and you route this right up over here. And let me see where my peripherals get plugged in. And I've got a peripheral 1 and a peripheral 2. So, of course, always peripheral 1. Click. And it's in its home. Look at that. Now, this one I'm going to zip tie, and it's going to be a little hidden zip tie. So, I'll be able to go up right underneath here. Get the zip tie underneath the motherboard a little bit here. Bring it over to the side here. If it wants to play nice, it'll probably watch. I'm going to get it up over here, and then it's going to slip out of my hand, like it always does. Oh no, I'm actually getting it. No freaking way. First try. This never happens. Oh, I got it. Yeah! Yo! And give it a little, make sure it's got a little slack everywhere before I sail it home. But bam! Yo! I got it! Yeah! So, and then you can see that it's got a little arch here. Don't worry about that. It's gonna live life very happy, just like this. You're not gonna have any issues. This thing is almost ready to start getting some GPUs put on it, guys. Yo, I don't know if there's anything else I gotta really plug in. I've got main power. I've got the daisy chain plugging in two power supplies onto here. I've got the CPU. I have the Molex. I have the fan plugged into the fan port 1. So theoretically, this thing, it's got onboard video. I should be able to just turn it on and at least start getting video off of it if I wanted to from here. But that's not where I'm going to stop at. So I need to plug in some GPUs, and I think I'm going to start off with the AMDs. Yo, guys, AMD. And these things will go right up onto here, onto this little ledge here. And it'll live life very nicely right here. Now, I always kind of recommend it. It's not necessary. You don't have to do it this way. But I like to plug in the risers onto here. And if you guys don't know what risers are because you didn't watch my whole series, let me show you here. I have some risers, guys. Yo, legit. Let me open up this loud bag real quick. It's got the riser and the adapter cable in here. All right, here, put that off to the side. So, this, guys, is a riser. And, as you can see, it's got 3 power options here. You got Molex, SATA, and 6-pin. So you got 3 power options. You do not plug one of these in and then plug it into another one. No, 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 no. We do not do that here. If you try to pizza when you're supposed to French fry, you're not going to have a good time. For anybody who's a South Park fan, you'll understand that one. And on the bottom of these graphics cards, I'm sorry about that if you guys heard a little bump. I just bumped the mic by accident. On the bottom of the graphics cards, there are little covers on the express port here, on the port. So make sure you take them off. It's that simple. Nothing special. And on here, there's a little lock. Make sure it's pushed towards the end and released. And then, very easily, no forcing, just kind of wiggle it on there. And then you can take the lock and slide it over. Just like that, bam. All the way over. And now, this thing is not coming off. Don't daisy chain them together if you don't like house fires. Well, I'm not going to worry about house fires because these daisy chains, they work pretty well. I haven't had an issue with any of my daisy chains. But unless you're talking about daisy chaining the PCIs, yes. Don't daisy chain these things. I think that's what BitNative was talking about, and he's absolutely correct. So from here,
what'd you pay for the motherboard? Do you remember?
The motherboard was, I think, right around $80 for the motherboard. I caught it on sale, so it was an awesome catch. Oh, Crypto Mikkel with his AMD fans over there. It's the only time you're going to see me with these things. Unless they like really perform nicely. Then I might get some more of them. Maybe. Maybe. We'll have to see. And then, kind of get these screws right up into here. And voila. I actually like how this rig goes together. This is like really nice. I've never had doing that off of racks that I gotten from Home Depot and going onto this, yo, I like this. So if you guys ever want to do like a really just clean, sharp build, this is the way to go. Tighten these down and it'll lock that card in play. Now this bar that's up on top that I'm screwing the card down onto is height adjustable. So I tried to make sure that whenever I set the bar that I laid out one of the graphics cards on here to make sure that it was as level as I could possibly get it. Bam. And tighten that down. And now she'll live home. She's at home. I can move her around this house and this thing won't fall off anymore. And it's nothing on this side of it, so I mean it can wiggle a little bit at the end, so there is a little wiggle play on her. Don't really worry about it. You're not moving her day in, day out, unless you're one of those people that has to futz with it, and then you might have an issue. But hopefully you're just setting this up, putting it off into an area where you don't have to worry about it, and you're good to go. And then what I was saying before that I was gonna talk about is whenever you're plugging these risers, the adapters into the motherboard. Now they can only go in one direction, which is nice. Bam. See that? They only go in one direction. What's bad about them is that the very next port is very, very close. And it's a lot of people either put like a little wrap of electrical tape between them so that the ports don't accidentally try to touch each other. For me, it doesn't look like, unless I sit there and get them in a weird position, will it be an issue. But I definitely will be putting electrical tape around them just for that safety measure. You don't want these two to be sitting there trying to ground out against each other. It'll do some funky stuff. Might not have a good time. But for the build purpose, I will slot them in, because I'm not planning on powering this up right off the bat, just because I've got to get the home ready for where it's going to be sitting at, get the network cable ran to it, and all that good stuff. All right, let's get on to GPU number 2 on the rig. Yo! Got a second one of these Sapphire Nitros.
Alright, so that's your total rig bill, except for the special wires.
Oh, yeah, my wife, because she was able to add everything up. So you're looking at, like, all together for everything that I had was just a little over $2,000. That's why I didn't just go run out and buy the stuff right away. I don't have $2,000 just laying around. I have $100 here, $100 there. I'm just the normal working Joe, guys. That just happens to be on YouTube now. Trying to explain stuff that I love to do, which is build stuff. Anytime that I get to build something, my God, I just nerd out on building. I don't care about anything else. I love building. If it's hot rods or if it's a mining rig, yo, I love it. Anybody got any kind of questions as I'm sitting here building? Definitely fire away. I mean, you guys are sitting here watching me put this all together. So, I mean, definitely shoot questions. 100%. Yeah, it don't matter. These 5 people that are here are the 5 people who want to learn how to change their lives. With a little bit of that visited Bitcoin. Yo, legit. And like I was saying before, I was going to demonstrate this. Like, you don't have to put the riser card on there beforehand. Like I said, you can do it afterwards. So you just slip it in from underneath and hold the top of the card when you're doing this. This way you're kind of supporting everything and it'll kind of click into place, and then you slide the lock over, bam, done. Just that easy. It's not hard to sit there and do this stuff. And then bam, I can put this other one on here. Yo! I should just pour these screws all out and just go to town putting them in. And I'm able to put this in, and this is from the Doge Lord himself. So he hooked me up, Peter from Decentralized TV. If none of you have ever checked that out, definitely check out that. Great stuff. And if you haven't checked it out, check out the pub. Bitcoin Pub is a great place to get crypto knowledge. Yo, that's like one of the first places that I started at, was on the pub. So great information. If you've never been there, definitely check it out. And check out yen.io. Get on that waiting list. It's legit. And as I'm sitting here tightening this down, it'll kind of start straightening out the card and make the card sit a little nicer, a little more organized. Tighten that all the way down. It doesn't have to be cranked on. I'm not really cranking this. I mean, 2 fingers tightens the card, the 2 little screws on the front. I mean, 2 fingers. You can easily strip this out. This is an aluminum frame, so you can put a lot of pressure on it very quickly with an Allen wrench. You can put a lot of pressure on there. So do your diligence and don't over tighten it, guys. Don't. You'll have to ghetto up your perfectly good, sexy rig. All right, somebody's got, oh. All right, wish I could watch live, but I'll be in tune for the void. For sure. DG Jaimin, thanks for being here. If you're able to watch and stay tuned, for sure, I will drop some of that knowledge bombs onto you. But if you can't stay here tuned, but definitely on your way out, if you can, smash that like button. Yo, legit, thank you. And definitely watch that replay on there. You know, it's like if you're trying to build a rig, this is pretty much how it happens. It's not the world's fastest process in the world, but you'll definitely get it built. I mean, I've been working on it for a little over an hour, and I'm pretty much almost done with the main build on this, guys. Legit. And that's another one tightened down. All right, legit. Yo. Huh?
Word of the night, legit.
Yeah. All right. And that's GPU number 4, guys. Like I said, I've been DCAing for a little while. So, I'll be able to grab another riser. Yo! Because I do kind of like putting this the risers on there beforehand. It's a little easier for me. And then snap it, lock you in, drop you down. Yo. Just that easy, guys. It's not hard to do this. It really isn't. And screw you down. But bam, just like that. And get another screw. I do have to give it up for this rig frame. It is really nice. And that's another one. And let me kind of ride this camera up so you guys can see a little more of what I'm doing over here. Since I'm more on top of the rig, I'm being kind of ignorant and not letting you see what I'm doing. So I'm just sitting here tightening down these screws, holding in the very front of the cards. Now that you guys can definitely see what I'm doing. But bam! That's another one locked in. And again, I'm not sitting here cranking on them. Hercules! Come on! Until it snaps. No. I mean, I'm just literally just 2 fingers real lightly until it snugs up. That's all you gotta do. And we got another one. Yo! Hookups from the Doge Lord. Get another one of these risers. Pull everything out. And set that down, because it's hard to snap this in when I got stuff in my hands. And pull the lock back. It won't go in any other way. And bam. Locked in. Bam! Just like that, guys. And another one can go into its home. And if you guys got any questions about what I'm doing, certainly drop them in. I know some of you guys, like Bit Native here, he's got some experience, so I'm just preaching to the choir on him. And thank you guys for staying tuned and watching me do this complete build. It's amazing that I got awesome people like you to watch me experience this stuff with me. Watch me grow. And again, like I said, this is, I'm lightly, 2 fingers. Whoop. Not tight. I mean, it's tight, but it's not like gorilla tight. And again, just whoop, tight. See, it's good. It's not going anywhere. It's legit. Yo, the word of the day, legit. Open up another one of these packages with the risers in them. And, yo, the last one, guys. The last graphics card is going into its home. Yo, legit. This is all from Peter. Yo, I love it. Thank you, Peter. I am putting this to work.
Nate says his rig isn't sexy.
Oh, snaps. This is how you one-up your mining game? This is called leveling it up. Oop, almost put that in backwards. That would have been epically bad. There we go. And get these last 2 screws in, and then I can start doing some more cable management. Yo! So, get this one started. Bam, just like that. And get into your home. There we go. Awesome. And definitely getting this stuff together is a little time consuming. It's not the fastest thing when you got this many graphics cards, but it sure looks nice. I mean, I have to say, this was a good purchase. A really good purchase. This looks really clean. I love it. I mean, wow. Whenever I get done with this, I will turn it around real quick. This way you guys can see what I'm seeing from my side. I mean, yo, this is legit. I want to know how heavy this is too now with everything on here. Oh, it's got a little bit of weight.
You're missing a few pieces.
Yes, I do know. Thank you, babe. And there we go. And I shall get the other PCI cards on there because there's a couple apparently that I did not put on, which is not a problem. Like I said, you can put them on from this stage. Takes just a second to put them on. And just make sure you're lining everything up and the PCI cards in the right direction. Put your hand on top of it, like I always say when you're doing it like this, because eventually you're going to have a riser failure. Everybody does. And so this is where you're going to have to take them apart, power the rig down, and you know, do all that good stuff to it. And then I've got one more riser. Woo! Make sure the lock is off. Everything is lined up. And put my hand on top. Click it in just like that. Bam. Just like that. And my 22-year-old cat's gonna think that she's gonna come through my work area. Not happening, kitty kitty. I love you. Please don't come through here. You know, I'm gonna have to pick her up real quick, guys, because she's gonna try to train up. Go that way.
Come on, baby.
Thank you, baby. I love my 22-year-old kitty kitty. All right, so now I'm looking at it from the meat and potato side. So now we've got to give the risers power. So that is where I pull on to my SATA cables. I love my SATA cables for this. Now don't try powering up like every single piece on there on one SATA cable line. I do know people who have. I just don't recommend it just because you can start fires if you start overloading with too many watts through these cables. The wires are not like, I don't know if you can really see it, guys, but the wires are not like super thick. So definitely watch the amount of wattage you're pushing through these things. Alright, so, and we're going to start clicking these suckers in. And I can, the easiest way to do this. I know, can't really see what I'm doing, guys. I'm so sorry on this one. You know what? These things are actually a little bit of a pain in the butt to get the power cable into them with the configuration it's in. I found one design flaw. You can't really, you got to take the risers off in order to plug power into them. Wow. Okay. So note to self, guys, this, you can't just plug in with these nicer ones with the rack in place. My other builds, I was able to do this without an issue. I got a little more spacing in between my cards. Alright, bam. And then take down this one, because I obviously cannot plug these in any other way. And the SATA cables only get plugged in one direction, and just kind of make sure that you support your riser. Let's get it plugged in right. Yeah, it's getting plugged in. Okay, this one's just being a little pain in the boot. Alright, and slide it all the way down, and make sure it's seated all the way down.
Alright,
and
what's your expected hash rate and what algorithm are you going for?
Alright, that's actually a really good question. With these sapphire nitros, I am not sure what their actual hash rate's going to be whenever I get done with the BIOS mod on them. I expect these ones, I'm guessing, right around 30 to 35 mega hash a piece. I will probably put these two either onto Ravencoin or Ethereum Classic. These ones, if I put them on Ethereum Classic, they will get about 31 to 32 mega hash a piece. And I'm not sure if I put that. I can put these ones, and I also want to check out some of that Beam. These ones, because I'm going to be checking this rig out with HiveOS. HiveOS allows me to run these two separately than all the rest of these. So these ones I'm going to mine Beam speculatively. So, yo, just like Crypto Mikkel, we're going to be beaming. Yo. So, yeah. So I'm going to be doing dual mining on this for sure. So I'm probably going to be doing Ethereum Classic with these, though. And it looks like I need another data cable for another couple of graphics cards. Yo! And what's nice about this configuration, because I'm not maxing out these power supplies, I'm not running into wiring issues of any sort, and I'm going to be running these cables at first and then go back into them and do some more cable management, of course. And of course I have to undo every one of these risers because of the configuration of them. This is ridiculous. Life of a miner, guys. This is how it goes. And push it back up into it. So anybody else got any great questions for me while I'm sitting here doing the tedious wire management? What's up, babe?
How much do you think this is going to put our electric bill off?
Oh, the $1 million question. So everything is kind of configured in how much wattage you're actually going to be using. So I'm not sure where the wattage actually is for the Sapphire Blue Nitros. But I do know that these tend to run between 100 to about 120 watts a piece. So with 120 watts a piece on these ones, you're figuring this rig will probably, I'm ballparking it, gosh, trying to do the math on this really quick. I'm figuring this will probably do a $90 bump on the electric bill, right around there. So this whole configuration, and now we're at 10 cents a kilowatt hour. So 90 watts at 10 kilowatt hour, at 10 cents a kilowatt hour. So if your electric bill is a little high, per kilowatt hour is a little higher, then you're going to have to kind of, keep that in mind when you're building these. It's some of the reasons why I also have been looking into the FPGAs. All right, so I've got 4 of these hooked in. Actually, I can do this in a different fashion. No, we could do it, keep it this way, keep it nice and simple. And then I got these 3 got to plug in real quick, and that'll be just fine and dandy. So, 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh, cool. I can do it. So what I was just thinking, that you guys heard me kind of going, I can do it. I've got enough cables to actually run each riser to its own SATA cable if I wanted to. But that also makes it a little bit more cumbersome on cable management. So just kind of keep that in mind, guys. If you're going to be running everything as safe as possible, that you're, where you're running only 1 riser to each SATA. I run two risers to 1 SATA, but no more. And I don't put them side by side ever. Like these ones is for a single GPU, not a dual, because the wiring is so close to each other. I think that it would get too warm. So this one will go powering into my very first one here. So we'll go SATA 1 on the second power supply to start powering up this stuff. And what I'll end up doing is I will take a little zip tie, and I'm going to zip tie these 2 together this way. It just looks good this way. And I can come in from underneath here. Now what I'm going to do is that this back rail, I'm going to use it to zip tie all my wiring up to. This way everything kind of just falls and flows backwards. I think it just will look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing that way. But that's just me. All right, get in there.
All right, I know you don't know about the Sapphires, but what's your expected hash rate on those 1070s?
The 1070s, I expect to see between 31 to 32 mega hash per card. So let's say 32, so you're 64, that's 128, and then another 32, so you'd be 130, 160 mega hash for at least these cards alone. I'm figuring right around between 30 and 35 on the Sapphire Blue Nitros. It depends on if I've got GPU lottery winners, where the memory on these are the better memory, because there are 2 different kinds of memory that comes equipped with these. But moving on, now pay attention to which risers go to which cards. The same power that powered the riser has to now power the top of the cards. So just remember that, guys. So these 4 are off of the first power supply. So I've got to make sure these first 4 get powered up by this power supply. These 3 get powered up by the other power supply. And then whenever I slot in this last GPU, when I finally DCA into that one, that will also get its power from this last power supply. So let's get back into doing this. All right. So like I said, you can get this little zip tie onto here. Just start cable managing this up just a little bit. All right. See, that just already looks better. And then I can sit there and zip tie it here. This way it just kind of flows back. But bam, just like this. And all right. Hey, at Bitcoin Jake, thanks for dropping in. Yo. It's like, don't worry, guys. I am not ignoring you in any way, shape, or form. I just want to make sure that I'm being really thorough with what I'm doing right now. And bam. See, that just looks really good. And I can sit here and start conjoining wires and zip tying other wires together. Just make it kind of clean it up. I mean, you can get creative with your cable management. The more you can, zip ties, a bunch of zip ties will clean everything up really nicely. All right, so get into my other one. Okay, so that's a 2, and there's a 3. All right, got another one that I can daisy chain 2 of these together with. Awesome, awesome. Alright, and again, I can't click the power into these ones because the graphics cards are just a pinch too close together. Alright. So does anybody have any questions, guys? Anything at all? Bitcoin Jake, you got any questions? Looks like somebody answered it. Oh! Okay, so you were the one that asked the hash rate question. Okay. Definitely great questions. Any other good questions you guys got for me, I'd be happy to answer them. As I'm undoing my risers real quick. And plugging power into them. Alright. Plug it in like this. Plug it in, plug it in. Alright. And make sure everything is wanting to fit at home. Put my hand over the top as I plug this back in, and bam. Just that easy. I plugged in the risers. I mean, it didn't take me that long to do it. Nice and easy, guys. And like I was saying, each one of these cards only gets one power cable. Do not daisy chain the tops together at all. By no means necessary do you put the same power to both of these cards. You are going to start a fire with your rig. Not going to be recommending on that one. If anybody does that, that's your own fault. Alright, so. And I will start over here. And again, I got the VGA cables that plug into the tops of these. Some of these only have one port on them, and I only need one on these ones. And like I was saying before, also, what's really nice about these, let's say your graphics card only has a 6-pin. Well, as you see here, this is an 8-pin. Well, if I don't need that, I can split one off, and look at that, it's a 6-pin. Legit. So, these ones take 8-pin up on top. So, I could sit here and plug it in, click, and This is where it starts to look more like Medusa's lair if you don't sit there and do the proper cable management. Now, this is where I usually plug stuff in at first and take a look at where all the wire routes were. If I want to clean it up, that's where I start to either remap out where all the wires laid out just to kind of clean it up a little bit nicer. Or I start grouping the wires together. This way I start basically bundling the wires. As you bundle the wires, you'll see everything kind of clean up naturally. And then these ones get plugged into the VGA ports. So there's no particular order on them. They do not care where they get their power as long as they're getting it from the VGA ports off of the power supply, and they will be very happy with that.
Now, can you accidentally plug them into the wrong thing, or is it a certain?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if you guys didn't hear, my wife was asking, can you accidentally plug these into the wrong port? And the answer is actually no. With these fully modular power supplies, some of the pins on the ports are certain shapes. So if you grab the wrong wire, you will not be able to plug it into that port. So it's not like idiot proof, but it does stop you from doing stupid stuff. I mean, if you get a hammer and you force it in there, you might get away with it momentarily. But I don't recommend that. And Bidnada's like Medusa's or a rat's nest. Yeah. What was the rest of that?
Remember Chris from Bite-Sized Moment?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. Him and his rat nest. I mean, there was so many wires. So yeah, I mean, this is just the beginning of me doing my wire management. So I'll be like, you know, doing a wrap here just to kind of clean it up. Looking, yeah, I think I'm gonna do that right now since I'm like doing it. That looked really sexy right there when I did that. So I'm going to drop a zip tie around you, just like this. Yo, and bam, just like that. And make sure that I plugged in my other SATA. Otherwise, some of those cards won't power up. See, bam. And I'll be able to, it always kind of looks a little bit more like a rat's nest right at the power supply. But do not, you're going to feel tempted to drop zip ties real close to that power supply. Do not do that. If the power supply dies, you got to have enough room in there to get your hand back in there to unrelease the locks, to unplug them. So if you got the zip ties too organized too closely to the power supply, you're not going to be able to get your hand in there to unlock it. And if you can, you might not be able to pull the wire out without unlocking all of them all at the same time, which makes it a pain in the butt. So I mean, it depends on how you want to do your cable management and how nice you want to be to yourself in the long run. Let's see here. Next, pull out my next one. Plug in the next GPU's main power. All right, and let's plug it into the power supply, into its VGA port, and make sure it's seated all the way. Sometimes they do a really soft click, and you got to make sure. And click, 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 boom. All right, so I'm gonna try to speed this up a little bit, guys, because I know it's kind of getting on the late side for some people. And kind of do the, because it's like I know where the wire mapping is. I can kind of see how I want to map my wiring, and get my other one in here. There we go. Click. Make sure these things click in. Otherwise, you're gonna be like, why isn't it turning on? Grassmaster Ninja knows all about that one. There we go. Click. Now you see what I'm kind of doing here? I'm kind of like giving it a small little bend. Now this is like a wire management 101. Don't kink it. Like, don't like fold it in half. But I'm just kind of doing like a slight bend to it. This way it kind of horseshoes and wants to lay down. And I can kind of control where these wires are going to lay down a little bit nicer. And it just helps with the cable management. Now remember, these 4 were off of the other power supply. So these ones get plugged into there. And then these 2 have 2 pin layouts. So I've got to make sure I grab the right cable to power these ones up. You got to put the power in both pins. Otherwise it will not fire up. And we'll start off with those ones first. And so this is what I was talking about. So we got 2 pins. Bam. And this will power up these cards beautifully. So, click this one in. Bam. And these wires were never really made to play nicely with what you're about to do plugging in this second one. But it'll work. If you've done this a few times, you'll understand how to make the wire loop out. Don't worry about the wire looping out like this. Let it be. Don't play with it. You don't want to put any extra stress on the wiring like that. And plug this into my VGA port. Yeah. Click. And then I got to get one more cable with the double on there. And then the other 2 gets the singles. And if you guys got any questions at all, please, if you're not watching it live, drop them down in the comments and down below. I definitely will follow back up with anybody with any questions you might have. Certainly drop questions in. That's how you learn, by asking questions. And it helps me out because it helps me make sure that the information that I'm giving out is correct. So ask tough questions if you have to. Click. And flip around. Click, just like that. And now these ones will be powered up just fine. Get that clicked into the power supply, just like so. And let's unravel this little one right here. And get the, that's for the power supply side, and this is for the graphics card. And you can't plug the power supply side into your graphics card, so don't worry about it if you think you're going to make that mistake ever. Alright, cable manage you just a little bit here, and do a little bit of that over here. But bam, now it's going to look nice. See, I like the wires to fall right where it needs to, which is going to be landing right by the card. It should drop right down by the card. It'll look better. It's easier to cable manage later on. And bam. And I'll be able to zip tie these right to the rack itself. Bam. That's going to look really nice. And all right, last but not least, all right, and make sure I give it a little persuasion to drop down where I want it to. And this one will be the farthest one away from the power supply, so this one will use up a little more of the wire length. There we go, make sure it's in all the way. Give it a little pull if you have to. If you're ever doubting if you've seated the the cable into the power supply, give it a little tug. Don't be afraid to. I mean, you're not trying to be Hercules and pulling it out. But you're definitely going to just give it a slight tug. You know, you're just making sure. And then, you know, you could sit there and do some real quick, easy cable management. I mean, no, I think we're fine. If anybody's got any questions whatsoever, do ask right now, because we're kind of wrapping up towards the end of the build here, because all I've got now is just beautification on this thing, which, as you see, it's coming together real quickly as I'm asking you guys to ask me some questions here. So if there's anything you guys are confused about, would like to know a little bit more about as I'm sitting here and cable managing this up really fast, I mean, it's this quick, guys, to do the cable management for sure. So any kind of questions, whatsoever, certainly ask away.
Are you planning on powering it up?
I probably will power it up to make sure that everything at least wants to turn on. I might not get any hashing tonight. It depends on how late I stay up, because I got, like everybody else, I got a 9-to-5 job, and I got to work tomorrow, so I can't stay up all night long to make sure that this rig turns on and starts hashing. So I might do this tomorrow and do some videos of actually. That's the one thing I want to do. I actually want to do a video of me getting this thing working and hashing on HiveOS. So I probably will only power her up just to make sure that everything wants to turn on, and just that quickly, everybody, it's together. I could do a little bit more cable management, but I don't want to bore you with the tedious stuff. So I mean, this is pretty much the whole gambit. Here we go. Let me turn this around so you guys can see what I was doing while I was sitting here talking to you. Get on the table. So I was sitting here just zip tying everything down. I will get a little more cable management going. As you see, it's cleaning up pretty nicely. Very sexy. I like this rig. This is like a really, really well built rig. I mean, the only thing that I got to do now is plug in all of my USB cables to my adapters on my motherboard. And like I said, you know, you can sit here, plug all these adapters in. Before I power it up, though, I will be wrapping just a little bit of electrical tape around one of these, just to make sure that I don't have any issues down the road. Bam. So I've got to put 7 of these bad boys into my motherboard. And this way you guys can see what it all looks like. Now, I'm not going to sit there and zip tie the blue cables together quite yet, not until I get electrical tape around these, just to make sure that I don't have any issues with those. And here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and number 7. Now, this motherboard can actually take on 13 GPUs. Okay, yeah. The wife brought up a good thing. She's like, you guys, I should show you guys where I'm plugging this in at. Let's see if I can do this. So, it's hard to see down in there. So if you want to be my hands.
It's these.
All right, so it's hard to see. They're down in the depths there. It's basically, that's how these graphics cards are going to communicate with the motherboard. Is that there's those little adapters in there, and these go between the risers on the bottom of the graphics cards to the adapters and transfers all the data through here. Yo, and these are USB 3 cables, component to component, which you don't see too often except when in mining equipment. So you just plug these, and there's like on the back side of the PCI's Express. On the bottom of the graphics cards, there is a little slot for these to go in. Sometimes they don't like to play nicely. There we go. And then I would come up over here and plug it in down here. And it would live life right down in here very nicely. I mean, I know you guys can't see it since there's... Let me see if I can turn this just right. And you might be able to see what I was doing. So, yeah. So you see where my hand is. I got a little cable down in here. And this goes to the back side of this graphics card on the PCI Express riser that's underneath here. So you just plug them into the back of there, plug them into the board, and then you're good to go. If you have issues with powering it up and it doesn't want to boot because of the graphics cards, I usually recommend just unplugging one of the, just booting up one graphics card at a time, just to make sure everything boots up properly. Whenever you're just testing it to turn it on, without trying to really boot it, you can just test it to make sure that everything turns on, the fans are spinning and all that good stuff. And then, you know, from there, you get onto your whatever operating system you're using, and you start getting this thing to start hashing. Stay tuned, of course, until on the next one where I'm going to go over Hive setup with the Hive 2.0, which is the latest edition of Hive. With that being said, guys...
Wait, one more question. Oh. Does it really matter, like, plugging the blue ones where you choose to plug them in down there, or do you need to be sequential?
It's better to... Oh, that's actually a really good question, babe. So, I try to plug these in sequentially, so this one will be plugged into port 0, which is going to be the 16 long port on the motherboard. So this one is going to be in essence 1. And then I'm going to plug this one in at the very, very top of the motherboard of slots. This is going to be number, so it's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The computer, Linux, always starts off with 0. So this will become GPU 0. And then I'll have all the rest of them, and I will do them in sequential order. This way, if you ever have a boot failure of any sort on these graphics cards, you can see, oh, it did a boot failure on number 3. Well, I can watch that card drop out and go, oh, I know where that card is on the motherboard, and unplug it and see what the issue is. So it makes it easier for diagnostics if you sequentially order these. It just makes life easier for you guys. So anybody have any other awesome questions? Anything whatsoever before I call it a night? I know there's like a few second delay on this. So in a little bit, I'm going to cut all these little ends off. I'm going to finish up the wire management back here. Just transform this into the rest of it being a sexual rig, dude. I mean... How do you guys think this is? Do you guys like this rig? Is it really sexy now that it's all put together and built? Yo! I mean, if you think it's sexy, dude, smash that like button. Yo! Smash it for the sexiness. Oh, yes. Yes, BitNative. Sweet. Yes, most definitely. This is going to be part 1. I mean, this is... I just got done doing a whole series of explaining each piece. So if you guys haven't checked out those, definitely go back to my mining series. Watch all the rest of them. I break down this rig and explain every piece. So if you guys have any questions or whatever with any of my mining series, definitely drop comments in down below. While you're down below dropping comments at the bottom of this video, smash that like button, subscribe, hit the bell notification, share this video with other people you think might be interested in mining. I mean, this stuff is legit. I don't know too many people who are going through and doing these kinds of setups. So this is what I plan on doing for all of you people as much as I can to get this kind of information out. So my next thing is going to be getting Hive going, teach you guys how to run on Hive. I'll even point this rig onto some Simple Miner OS, and we'll go play with some Linux programs. Yo, and with that, guys, like always, I will see you on the next one.